Welcome everyone to another show from Straight from the Paws. Today we have a segment that is very important to both Bev and I and all you animal lovers out there. So first, I'd like to welcome again my co-host, Beverly Andrade.
Hello everybody.
And a very special guest today, Constance Gee. Constance, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I'm just going to let everyone know that Constance is involved in 3 major groups in our area, and I think you all have probably heard about them. Stop the Insanity in Westport, Join the Conversation Westport, and Protest the Westport Tenant Farm. That's a lot of groups to be involved in, and I'm sure this takes up a great deal of your time, and we appreciate you taking the time to speak to our audience today. It is our hope today, audience, that you listen to the message that Constance has to give you, and that you go out and do what you need to do to help the animals. Okay, Bev?
All right, so as an animal shelter, Forever Paws is involved in all the fun stuff too. I mean, we have all the adoptions and the adoption days we have, that's all the cute stuff. But this is a serious discussion that we have today. And I would like everybody to know out there that Constance has been working, trying to get things done in the legislature. And we already know that there are laws out there to protect animals. So what I would like to ask you is, one, how did you get all involved in this to begin with?
Well, it was the Madeiras tenant farm tragedy that galvanized us, all of these groups, to step forward and try to change things. As you know, it happened the second time around. The Madeiras tenant farm happened about a year and a half ago in January of 2016, but the same thing had happened at the same property in 2010, and nothing came out of it. So everyone went just right back to what they were doing before, and we have come together to make sure that nothing like this ever happens again in Westport and hopefully across Massachusetts.
But it does happen, that's the thing.
Happen.
And that's why all of these groups are forming like rallies. We've been to rallies, and we had year remembrance that you had. So tell me, what is going on with the laws? I mean, I know that there's a case going on right now that's in the public's awareness. It's in the newspapers, it's on TV. But what's happening with all of that?
Well, what just recently came down was the closing of the trial or hearing of Stephen and Nicole Botello. And Nicole Botello is a town employee at Town Hall in Westport. Judge Gilbert Nadeau gave her the most lenient of sentences, only it's called a continuance without finding. So although she admitted to the facts of the case, which were horrendous, she and her husband, or estranged husband, they did leave their 6 animals in a flea-infested house, locked the door, walked away, allowing them to starve to death.
So all the animals in that house died?
No. The 2 dogs did, 1 cat did, and there was a bearded dragon that was found in his cage, starved to death. I believe that 2 of the other cats somehow escaped the property. Nevertheless, Judge Nadeau gave her the most lenient of sentences, basically a year-and-a-half probation, after which her record will be completely expunged. So she will have no record, there will be no record of what she did to those animals. And of course, she and Stephen Botello, like all animal abusers, will be able to, after they finish probation, will be able to have animals again.
And that is horrific for the animals, especially, I believe, what one of the detectives referred to that place as a house of horrors.
Yes.
That was his description in the courts. What happens in the courtroom when this is presented by the detectives and given to the DA, and then this case is presented and the judge hears all of that, how these animals suffered and died? And I believe starvation is one of the most cruelest ways for these animals to die.
For anybody to die, for any being to die, yes. I wish I could answer that question. We would like very much to speak with Judge Nadeau and other judges across Massachusetts. We have heard through reliable sources, through the Animal Rescue League, that Bristol County is notorious for lenient, lax sentencing of animal abusers. But I don't think Bristol County is alone in that. I don't think that in general there is much, there are stiff penalties, there's much consequences, if any, for animal abusers.
It's on the books.
It is on the books.
It's on the books.
Legislated in Massachusetts as a felony, a serious felony, worth up to 7 years in prison. Almost always, animal abusers get off with a probation of 1 year to 2 years. They walk away, there's no fine, there's no jail time, there's nothing.
And they can have an animal again.
And they can have an animal again. And this is why we are working on supporting, want all of you to support House Bill 852, which is the establishment of an animal abuse registry, much like a sex offenders registry. So if you are found guilty of animal abuse, your name will be on this registry, and which would be very helpful for animal rescue and adoption centers, and for any pet stores worth their salt would be looking at would have access to such a registry before they sell or give away an animal to anyone.
Would this registry be limited to Massachusetts, or would this be, I know we're right next to Tiverton, and I've seen cases that have been on TV in Tiverton or in Rhode Island where animals have been tortured, burned. You know, the stories are incredible. And that's our next door neighbor. I was wondering, is this just a local registry that you're looking for, or is this going to be nationwide registry?
Well, no, that so needs to happen, but this is out of our state house.
So this would be our state, and it would be the beginning.
Yes, and it's being sponsored primarily by Stephen Howitt out of Seekonk. So this would be specific to Massachusetts. But what we need, and I hope that we can work with our senators, with Senator Warren and Senator Markey, to help to make this happen nationwide, because if somebody abuses animal in one state, in Rhode Island,
right,
and comes across to Massachusetts, then there would be no record. So this needs to be done federally at the national level.
You know, you're taking on a big responsibility with this. Who has helped you?
Well, we are just now, unfortunately, we have just been galvanized by this. We're just really aware that this is happening, and we are following this now, and we really need everybody's help. Another person that's been very aware of this and trying to promote it is Brian Harrington of Odie's Animal Rescue. He has been very much vocal about this as well. So there are a lot of people across the state, not just us, that have their eye on this and want to see this happen.
Now, recently you talked to the DA of our area, Quinn, and I think you had a group of people that went to see him and discuss some things with him. And what was his take on all of this? Yes,
well, we were very happy that he and District Attorney Quinn and his assistant DA, Kyle McPherson, reached out to us and invited us to their offices 2 days after we had the rally at the Fall River District Court. And they reached out to us because we had all, there were 6 of us there, we had all been in contact with their office, expressing our dismay at the judgment that came down in the Botello case, and also asking that they make animal abuse a priority within the DA's office here in Bristol County and prosecute it aggressively. So we had a very, I think, informative meeting with them. We expressed our concerns. They said that they felt that they did prosecute it aggressively and that it was really up to the prerogative of the judiciary, and that our focus should be on the judiciary. I think they are right in that it is up to individual judges what they, how strictly they prosecute, they hand down sentences, and yet I do think that it could be more of a priority at the district attorney's, in the district attorney's office, not just here in Bristol County, but across the Commonwealth. We asked them to include, to form an animal abuse unit within the special victims unit of the Bristol County District Attorney's Office. And we would very much appreciate it if all of you that are watching would write DA Quinn a letter and asking him, again, to please create an animal abuse unit within the special victims unit of the Bristol County District Attorney's Office. His address is 888 Purchase Street, New Bedford, Massachusetts 02740. We would also really appreciate it if everybody would write Judge Gilbert Nadeau Jr. at the Fall River District Court. The address is 186 South Main Street, 5th floor, Fall River, 02720, and ask him to please treat animal abuse as the serious felony that it is.
And we've understood from a lot of the things in the news that animal abusers are abusers of other children or people, or get into criminal cases in the courts with other things. So animal abuse is like a step off into other criminal things, and that's been documented. So I don't understand why the judges are giving these people a slap on the wrist. It doesn't make any sense to any of us. To you?
No, it doesn't make any sense to us, but I think that we have to, I think what we're asking the audience to do today, and I really hope that you do that, is to write these letters, because I think it's about time that we have to stop moving forward. Their voices can't be heard. The voices we have to be is through us. So it is very difficult. Do we, by any chance, know who the judge will be? Because I know Mr. Medeiros' case is coming up, I think, in November.
And all of them, correct? There's all those, there's 29 farms.
Well, they are in the works right now. Right. They are in preliminary hearings. We have been at the courthouse when it comes before the, within the court, but the preliminary hearings, they keep getting postponed but I'm sorry, we do know who the judge is, but I cannot think of her name off the top of my head, but I can get that information to you. Okay. But this is the time where, of course, one of the reasons that we were so electrified and angry with what happened with the Botello case is that although, of course, that happened at the district level, and the Medeiros case, thank goodness, is happening at the Attorney General's level, which we are so grateful for. We are terribly concerned that it will all be plea bargained out, and that none of the carefully collected reams of evidence that proves their guilt will ever see the light of day in the courtroom, and that they will all be plea bargained out and get probation at the most, and be back in business, as we've heard that some of them already are.
That's what I heard. I was going to ask you that next. I've already heard that some of the tenant farmers already have animals again.
Yes.
And I thought they weren't allowed to have animals.
Well, that's what we think.
But who monitors them?
Right, who monitors them? That's a very good question. Is our probation, are the people that are doing the monitoring, and once somebody is on probation, is there a system where our probation officers are checking regularly and then hopefully entering it into some sort of log that they can keep track of it? But that's a good question. Obviously, who follows up? Is
the farm closed that's in Westport, is that closed down for animals?
Yes, at this point it is, but who knows what goes on way out in the woods on 70-some acres.
So there could be other animals.
I hope not. I don't think there is. I'm hoping that we're keeping track of that Westport's keeping track of that, but we sure hoped a lot was going to happen after 2010, and nothing did.
Yes, we did have some of the animals from 2010. One of the dogs we had was named Chance, And he was the poster child for animal abuse during that time frame. And I believe he's well and got adopted and living in a fine home. But now we have other animals that we got the rabbits, a lot of rabbits from that, and luckily they all got adopted too. So as an animal business, to see the cruelty that goes on all around us is heartbreaking, and I hope our studio audience can understand some of this legislative stuff and write these letters and call our congressmen and our representatives and our senators and do this. I was wondering, Constance, can you say that House bill again that we had?
Yes,
do you remember? Because I don't even remember. It's
House Bill number 852. It's being presented by Stephen Howitt, H-O-W-I-T-T, and he is a state representative from Seekonk. And at this point, we don't know what's happening with it. We're concerned because it was heard in the Judiciary Committee on July 18th of this year, but for some reason it has not yet been released. So we don't know where it's at and why it isn't moving forward. But we certainly would like to help it move forward in any way we can.
And what is the contents of this House bill?
It is the name of it is an act relative to establishing an animal abuse registry.
Okay, that would be the animal abuse registry.
Right.
That is what would be the beginning of a key legislation to register these abusers, like the Patello case, and follow them. So if that person came to Forever Paws and filled out an application, we would be able to put that on our database and find out if that person was an abuser and say, absolutely not.
Right.
You know, and that's what we don't have any links to.
We don't. We try to do it, you know, from shelter to shelter or rescue to rescue.
We do have a little red flag.
We do have some red flags, but it's minimal compared to what it could be if we had this registry. So what I would ask our audience that, you know, whether you live in Representative Sylvia's district, or you live in Carol Viola's district, or you live in Paul Schmidt's
district,
you know, you contact them yourself. Their numbers and everything is in the newspaper, the Herald News, or just look it up online and call them and tell them about this House bill and tell them that you want them to support it. That's very important. I think we've got to move on and make sure that our audience understands this. This is very important, folks. We need your help. Contact them. Everyone is very, you know, all three of them are very accessible to everybody in their constituents in their district. So let them know that you care and that you think this is very important.
Connie, what we didn't start off with, but was probably very interesting to people, I know you're retired, but what did you do prior to this? Were you in the animal field prior to all of this? Or are you like a secretary of things?
No, I actually was a professor at the last university that I retired from was Vanderbilt University.
Wow.
I've loved animals all my life. I'm an only child. They were just so important to me growing up, and they always have been. So I love animals, and I can't stand to see them mistreated. And we have so much of this going on. I actually was a founding member in that I joined the day after it was announced of PETA, of the People for Ethical Treatment of Animals. And I have been a member of PETA ever since then, I think 1980. And along with various other organizations, national and local. So
that's how you got started. And then I believe you're a resident of Westport?
Yes, I moved to Westport 5 years ago full time. And then this thing happened with the Medeiros farm, and I was just blown away. I mean, I couldn't believe it.
So many of us were. And I found that a lot of people didn't know what to do. That's why I joined one of those Facebook things. I wanted to follow it. I first received a Facebook from a friend of mine that followed it, and I didn't know that this was all out there. I heard about it, read about it, and knew about it from being at Forever Paws, but I didn't know all the Facebook information, the social media information. So a friend of mine had liked it, and then it popped up on mine. And I started looking at it and reading it, and I was like, oh my God. Then I joined it. And after that, I followed it constantly, seeing what's going on, and appalled at this case that's in front of us now, that the Botello case, and appalled at the Medeiros case. And I don't know what else to say to our studio audience, but you need to follow this. How would they get to some of the social media sites?
Yes, thank you for asking. Donna Perella and Chris Wiley were right on the spot when the whole thing broke with Medeiros, and they pulled people together. We met at the library for the first time, and then they started this Facebook page called Join the Conversation Westport. And it's been a wonderful mechanism to keep up with what's going on, as has been the Facebook page that was started by Jody Greenleaf out of Attleboro, called Protest the Westport Tenant Farm.
And she was in Attleboro, mind you. I want our studio audience to know that this is not just Westport or Fall River. We're all over the place.
Yes, and so I would really recommend that you join both Facebook groups, because they have a different take on things and you get different kinds of information, but it is a great way of keeping up with legislation and especially what's going on with the Medeiros tenant farm. We also have a group, Stop the Insanity Westport, and I am not sure how to give the audience contact information on that. Although I think you can probably go online or find out through Join the Conversation how you would sign up for the newsletter, which is a very good newsletter put out by Kathy Feininger, and which really does keep everybody abreast of what's going on.
Now, Stop the Insanity, that's the group that wears those red T-shirts
Yes.
all over the place. With all the meetings in Westport that I've been to, I've seen the red T-shirts. And can you explain what's on the back of those red T-shirts?
Well, it has a listing of all the animals. I wish I'd brought one. I'm sorry
yes.
that I didn't. I should be wearing one. I've complained to Kathy because I don't look good in red. I prefer blue. But yes, it's Stop the Insanity Westport on the front of it. On the back is listed all the different kinds of animals that were found on the Westport
And the numbers.
tenant farm. 1,400 animals, over 200 of which had to be euthanized on the spot. And the whole back of the shirt, and I'm really sorry I didn't bring one, is filled with, I mean, every animal you can imagine that had been abused and starved to death and cruelly neglected.
And some of those animals are in our local area, I believe in Tiverton. The West Farm?
West Place Animal Sanctuary, yes.
Has some of
Wendy
those
Taylor.
animals, right.
Yes, and that's wonderful. We have, and Don't Forget Us, I believe, Don't Forget Us, Pet Us has, in Dartmouth, has, I believe, a horse that came off the 2010 Medeiros property. So
Was that horse at the
yes.
memorial
Olaf.
for the one year anniversary?
Yes.
We saw,
Olaf.
yeah, we saw that horse, beautiful animal, and the condition of that horse before was horrific. We heard that, and I also know that there are some animals that went to the Black Beauty Ranch in Texas. Is that true?
Yes, I believe
I read that.
so.
I followed that.
You know, animal sanctuaries and rescue centers across, across the country were filled up with animals from the Medeiros farm. I mean, to the point that we saturated, Westport saturated animal rescue and sanctuaries with animals, with abused animals from Westport. I mean, it's like Westport, there are many people there that care so much about this and are outraged, but Westport as a town owes the rest of the country and Massachusetts something. We have become known as the animal abuse capital of the Northeast.
Yes, I was wondering if you were going to say that.
Mm-hmm. Our officials, yes, unfortunately, our officials in Westport need to step up and say, this is a terrible thing that happened. We are, so angry about it, and we want to make something good come out of this by being, by supporting an animal abuse registry, by changing the way things are done in Westport on farms, and the way our animal control officer, the support that she's given, the lines of communication between our Board of Health, our ACO, our police department, who, by the way, and Jeff Majewski deserves a big pat on the back right here.
He was instrumental in the Farm of Horrors.
Yes.
I've read and heard and been involved in a lot of that.
They did an incredible job collecting evidence both at the Medeiros property and at the Patella case, but it must be so disappointing for them to have spent all this time and energy to put together such, you know, compelling evidence and then not ever see it, and see it just sort of disregarded by Judge Nadeau.
Well, we're going to be running out of time, so just a synopsis, Constance, if you would, to our audience. Give us the couple of bullet points as to what we want them to hear today. I know you've already explained it, but just give out again the name of the law and what we're doing with it and where we're going, what we have to do.
Animal abuse is a felony in Massachusetts. We want to see it prosecuted and sentenced as one. We want an animal abusers registry. That would be House Bill 852. We would like to see animal advocates in court. And we would like for our attorney, our assistant, our DA's office, excuse me,
that's okay,
to DA Quinn, to form an animal abuse unit within the Special Victims Unit of the Bristol County District Attorney's Office.
Okay, well, I think that we've gotten that message out. I thank you for coming today. I know that you have been a very strong advocate and voice for the animals, as I said initially, and I think that, you know, again, it's easy to sit back and say, well, what can I do? Well, today, audience, we're telling you
what you can do.
Another thing they can do is to write letters to the editor.
Absolutely.
I mean, write your paper.
Yeah. Okay.
Tell them how you feel about this.
And join these Facebook groups.
Join these groups.
Please.
That's important because by joining these groups, you can see if there's going to be a rally or the House bill that's passing or what court case is coming up, what probationary hearing is coming up. And be there to support the DAs.
Right, and come, yes, and come to the trial. When the Medeiros, if the Medeiros, some of those cases, hopefully, are heard in court, be there. Because it's like Mothers Against Drunk Driving. The courts did not prosecute drunk drivers as they should have until mothers that had had their children killed by drunk drivers said, this is it, we are fed up, and we're going to go and we're going to sit at the courtroom and we're going to be there and we're going to look at the attorneys and look at the judge, and they did, and because of that, drunk drivers started being prosecuted as they should have been.
Well, that's a very good point, and I think the audience, we ask you, please, whatever you can do to help us, and don't forget about contacting our state reps. They're very good in our area. I think they are. Bristol County, Paul Schmidt again, Carol Viola, and Alan Sylvia. Contact them, and Mike Rodricks, and let them all know where we're at and what we're doing and what you want to do, and be the voice and help Constance and her groups help these animals and get everything today that we've presented to you done. Thank you very much and have a great day.